All right, so we're back in the world of Path of Exile 2, and today, guys, I'm going to be giving you guys an update on my in-game Pathfinder Werewolf build. As you guys remember, I said I was going to be making a Pathfinder Werewolf build, and we were able to get it into the in-game just over the last day or so. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an idea of how to transition the build, how to play it, things like that, because I know this is a little bit of an unorthodox build. But yeah, that's what we're going to be doing this one, and let's talk about it right now. So first, let's talk about the build a little bit, just to give you guys an idea of what the build is about, because it did go do some like transformations from what we initially thought we were going to be playing. But the whole design behind the build is to play around the skill called Lunar Blessing. This is a buff skill that basically makes it so that you transform into this like giant white wolf, and it's going to make it so whenever you hit enemies, you're going to be shooting out moonbeams that do damage. It's going to scale the duration based on your rage, so we're going to be rage stacking pretty heavily. It's going to give you and yourself, your minions some bonus damage as well. On top of that, we're not using any minions in this build specifically, but you're going to be doing a ton of ice damage. Things are going to be CC'd and controlled, and things can't really do too much to like interact with you. We're going to be using pounce to apply marks, which is going to essentially freeze them. It's going to give us some extra bonus damage, and with between our Lunar Assault and just our cross slash, we're going to be able to just deal some pretty solid ice damage and freeze. But yeah, that is the core design behind this build. Just wanted to make sure you understand it, and let's talk about it a little bit more in depth. Now, before we dive a little bit more in depth into the build, I'm going to answer a question I'm sure a lot of you are going to ask, and that's about leveling. My recommendation for you when it comes to leveling this build is to not level as a wolf. I think it's one of the most horrible experiences I've had as a player in Path of Exile, and it's just not very good. I mean, I probably didn't choose the best things because it was my first time leveling, but I would recommend you just level as essentially a like poison pathfinder, maybe like Fubgoon's build or something. That should be fairly good. And if you're looking for the time to make the swap, when you're trying to swap is basically whenever you get access to Lunar Blessing, because that's the major turning point in which you can actually start doing some really good damage. So in my opinion, I would highly recommend against leveling that way. It's just not very good. I think the werewolf does no damage, but just do a Fubgun's build and then transition when you get Lunar Blessing. All right, coming over to the actual game now, let's talk about the links and the gear and everything, because that's kind of important. What we're using very heavily is going to be Shred. We're going to be updating these gems as much as possible soon, but we actually just have no gems, as you can probably tell. This is extra nonsense, but as you can see here, we have no gems. We have nothing. But anyway, let's go over the gem. So we're going to be utilizing Shred. This is going to be one of our main skills, and this is, weirdly enough, it's a base attack that's used in the vast majority of this fight. The reason why we're using Shred is just it's going to proc your ice crystals, and seeing that it attacks frequently is really good with Lunar Blessing, because Lunar Blessing is based on how often you're attacking and stuff, and if you're attacking, and seeing that this attack quickly, you're going to always get the intervals when you do the attack. Also, whenever things are frozen, you're going to get the icicles to fall off, so it's really nice. Way I have it supported right now, because I don't have a lot of gems just yet, keep that in mind, is rapid attacks too. You're probably going to keep that. Short fuse, I don't think this is as important. I think this make your crystals fall a little faster, or explode faster. So this could be an option. And then I use Rage 3. The reason for this is just because this build is very centered around rage. You scale your rage, your Lunar Blessing is gonna basically is basically going to, what is it going to do? It's gonna make it so your Lunar Blessing, I've been up all night. It's gonna make it so that your Lunar Blessing has a longer duration. So that's kind of what it's for. And then obviously it's going to give you damage. And with Rage 3 is going to make it so you attack faster when you're not at maximum. Don't necessarily need it now, but this is all I have now. And then we have Close Combat 2. You're going to deal more damage when you're close. So that's the idea. Lunar Assault is going to be with rapid attacks, elemental armaments, and we're going to be using Close Combat. One thing I would highly recommend is having, I think it's called Deep Freeze. The Deep Freeze? Yeah, Deep Freeze here on your Lunar Assault, because a lot of times this skill does a lot of chill buildup, and generally speaking, you want to activate, I'm not used to these names yet, Arctic Howl, and this will give you empowered attacks as extra cold damage for you and your ally, so you generally want to do it that way. But sometimes it doesn't happen that way, and you'll freeze them with Lunar Assault and you'll get less freeze duration. Unless they're frozen, they're standing still, and there's a lot of like damage multipliers with it, so super important to have. So keep that in mind. And Lunar Assault is going to have Deep Freeze as well, so that's going to be ideal. We're going to try to get a 4 link soon. Obviously, we're going to be using Herald of Ice for the explosions, magnified area, clarity, and cannibalism. May not need the clarity with the way I have it set up because the mana is pretty efficient now. You're going to have crazy mana issues playing this at all times, and I know your pain if you're playing this and you're like mid-game. You've probably seen a lot of pain, so just keep that in mind. We're going to fix that soon, though. I'll show you how to fix it. We have Pounce. We're going to be taking out the Predator's Mark, and we're going to be putting in Freezing Mark for it. Freezing Mark is going to give us extra damage as gained as cold, and that's kind of the idea. It's going to last for 10 seconds. So we're going to pounce on them. We're going to proc it with Cross Slash. It's going to help us freeze them longer, you know, if it does freeze them. And then we're going to get magnified area on it, so it, you know, it'll hit people in the area, and then it could in theory freeze them. Next, we're going to have Cross Slash. Cross Slash is going to give us rapid attacks. Again, we just don't have gems to get better versions. But we're just going to jump back and slash. This, again, is going to be our proccing thing for the pounce. And then we're going to have Rage too, because, again, we didn't have any other gems. You don't need it, but I think it really helps with the Rage uptime. And then we have Execute. This is just going to do more damage when they're on lower HP. There's a argument for Coaling Strike in this skill, honestly, but we'll experiment with that in the future. Our Arctic Howl, we already talked about this a second ago. We're just going to be using Deep Freeze with it, just so that whenever we activate it and power it, is going to keep them frozen longer. I would probably put like Tireless here, would be good. Possibly some like duration thing could be good as well. Finally, we're using Lunar Blessing. Keep in mind, we did get a 6 link, but we don't have the gems to make it a proper 6 link, and for the most part, we have magnified area, so you'll pretty much have this for the most part. But we have prolonged duration. We want the duration to be as long as possible. Cooldown recovery, because we want it to come down off of cooldown as soon as possible. The duration of this, while this is active, Lunar Blessing, you don't get the cooldown, so you have to wait for it to actually come off cooldown naturally, which kind of sucks. Cold Mastery for more plus levels, because plus levels is OP. Then we're using magnified area. Until you get your 5 link, you're not going to really have this, but I mean, it's magnified area. Then the last one we're going to use is elemental armaments or something like that, is what I'm thinking. But yeah, these are our skill gems. Moving on to our passive skill tree. What you should do if you're leveling this is I would just grab maybe stats here, because you're going to need in strength if you're going to naturally play like a druid, and you won't have stats going this way unless you get it on gear. So you'll probably have to grab stats like that, and then maybe come over here and grab like elemental damage with attacks kind of stuff. It's really a mess, honestly. That's why I say always go with just do the poison thing. But anyway, if you do it the way you should, which is basically the moment you ascend, you're going to take the Path of the Warrior. This is going to give you 5 skill points, and you're going to have the ability to allocate Warrior. What you could do is like grab these movement speed nodes here, and then grab the stat nodes until you get there. And then once you get Path of the Warrior, you're going to come over here and do this. And then the next one you're going to get is Traveler's Wisdom, and this makes it so your attributes, you can make them any of those things. One of those things, which it actually is pretty nice, especially for mana. Coming over here though, we're going to take a look at all the things, and I'll explain to you why we take them. All this melee damage, obviously, and we're going to take Brutal because the strength is good and we're doing melee damage. We come over here to grab Tides of Change. This is all for skill duration for Lunar Blessing. In our like Warcry, because it gives us more damage for duration, so this is actually just really big. Up here, we're going to take all this skill speed and elemental penetration while we're shapeshifted, because we're always going to be shapeshifted, and this is an elite amount of skill speed while shapeshifted, so it's super good. And this one does penetrates elemental resistance while shapeshifted, so a lot of elemental pin. These are very good nodes to take. I would even argue you could take these early. Don't take these early, because you won't have anything to really utilize this. This will be something you get after you get Lunar Blessing, in my opinion. Coming over here, we grab all this increased elemental damage and damage against shield enemies and cold damage. Is good for pretty much at any time in the game, but you're not gonna have, it's not gonna be as impactful as late game. And we also took everything here. Impact area is just gonna give us increased area of attack for our attacks, because we do have a lot of AoE attacks with Lunar Blessing, and then we have Impact Force as well. This is just more area damage. Again, this is gonna be something you maybe get later when you don't when you have Lunar Blessing actively. Rather, we took damage here because we need the damage. Coming over here, we're going to be taking Primal Rage. All the lead-in nodes give us melee on rage hit and increase the maximum rage while shapeshifted. This is super big for duration as well as just damage. Coming down here, we also grab armor to elemental damage. We can take this later if you want to, because you're not going to have a lot of armor. And realistically, I'll probably go this way because fire is harder to deal with than cold. I'm just a Papega, so yeah, don't do that. Coming up here, we grab all this area attack and area damage, and increase melee damage hits close range. We're always going to be close because we're like doing wolf stuff. We're going to take all that. Up here, more skill speed. I'll shapeshift it, and we're going to be ending with Spirit of the Wolf, because this gives us crit chance, which we may do a crit scaling thing in the future, but who knows. But the skill speed is ridiculously good anyway. And then the Frozen Claw, we're going to gain extra damage as cold damage while shapeshifted, which is super big. Now up here, we grabbed Spirit of the Bear. This is going to give us 50% increased damage while enemies are immobilized while shapeshifted. That is a massive amount of damage increase. Immobilized counts for freeze, by the way, so that's why we want that. Coming over here, we grabbed Mind Eraser, and as I explained to you guys, mana is going to be an extreme pain in the ass. At all times, your character is screaming and needs mana, and this has been the way I've dealt with mana, is basically having clarity in my gems, getting Mind Eraser, and then I put one cost effective there and one cost efficiency here, and that was all I needed to basically deal with mana. She almost never says anything about mana anymore, unless I'm like standing next to a mana drainer guy. So yeah, that's how you deal with mana. Just grab this node, should be fine. Coming down here, this is a wasted point, don't do this. And then we have Reinforced Barrier. This is going to give us increased energy shield while we're more armor while our energy shield is low. We don't have a ton of energy shield, as you can see. We have like 300. This is going to be something you probably get later as well, so you're probably not going to really use these points for a while. Probably have one of these lead-in points be the efficiency, so you can actually have mana to play the game, and then you'll get this later as you get more armor. Then coming over here, we have all this melee rage on melee hit, and then this one Bestial Rage is pretty good. This is going to give us increased physical damage for every 10 rage. Another node to consider, I don't know how good it is because I haven't tested it, but Vengeful Fury is good. We're going to gain 1% armor per rage, and I have like 48 max rage or something right now. So that's like almost 50% extra armor. So it could be an option, especially if you decide to pivot into something like this, for example, where you get 100% more rage. That'd be pretty decent armor, especially if we super build into more rage. So just keep that in mind, that is an option. And then coming up here, this is probably going to be a lot later, closer to when you're in game. We grab the Elemental Pin. Honestly, we can argue earlier Elemental Pin, but we grab this Elemental Pin and Cold Pin. Then ending off the passive skill tree, we grabbed Freeze, Build Up, and Skill Effect Duration. And again, this is going to be extremely centered around Lunar Blessing, so that you have enough like duration so you can keep doing it. For the most part, that's pretty much it for the passives. If you have any questions, just leave them down in the comments. I'll explain them a little bit more in depth to you, but that's the idea. Oh, and what we're going to grab later is going to grab this Relentless Pursuit and Running Assault. So that's like pretty much anything we have left anyway. So for our weapon, this is something I got in Act 3. This gives me, as you can see there, it's like 100 to 176. I did recently get that extra gem slot, but I haven't put anything in it. I've been using this all the way up until I'm doing like tier 5s or something on my maps right now, and I've been using this level 40 weapon. So if you guys craft anything of actual value, which most of you could probably find something better for like 2 exalted right now in the game, and get this, I got +3 levels, so that kind of carried me. But for the most part, as you can see, it's just really garbage. What you really want, in my opinion, is armor armor energy shield. I'm so used to saying armor evasion. We never use energy shield and armor together. But yeah, there's my helmet. We're probably gonna get armor to elemental on it whenever we can, but we're just covering our resistances with some life and some mana because, you know, we need those things. As you can see, there's nothing too crazy here. Same with our chest. We just got something that gives us some basic resistances and life. We're fine. I will say defense is a little rough right now because we don't have a lot of gear, but you know, that's just the nature of a new league, so it is what it is. For our necklace, we did get +1 to all melee skills, which is nice, and we actually crafted this one, so we got lucky with this one. It's not the greatest because it has invasion on it, but otherwise we got +1 to level, some resistances and some rarity, which we may get some more rarity gear in the near future just so we can make some more stuff. This one we actually crafted as well. This one has some add fizz, which is pretty nice for damage. We got some elemental resistances for lightning and cold, some life, and some mana regeneration rate. I'm not sure how big of an impact the mana regeneration rate is, but even without it, I'm sure we're fine. For our boost, we had like 20 ms boost with cold resistance and maximum life. For our belt, we have maximum life, mana, strength, cold resistance, lightning resistance. And then our gloves have add cold, add fizz, armor to elemental damage, and reduce attributes. Like as you could probably tell, our loot gear is like super garbage. One thing I will say though is having a stun charm is super important. We don't have a lot of armor, so we take a lot of damage and we get stunned a lot. When it comes to most things with this build, the hardest part of the build is just defense. Defense is a pain in the ass. But I mean, that comes with the territory of a new league and not having a lot of gear. I'm not quite as good as a lot of the like regular PoE players that play a lot of different games, so I'm not as fast as them. But we'll be fixing it in the next coming days because I'd rather have a defense issue than have an offense issue, in my opinion, because defense is just getting gear for the most part. But yeah, I guess we'll end this video out on how the rotation goes, just so you have an idea of how we play it, just so you guys can play it well. So the way we start this fight is we'll just basically jump in and try to lunar assault them. Lunar assault them to get them to the level where they're primed. We're going to just essentially pounce on them, jump back, and then we're going to melee attack. Then activate our Arctic Howl to freeze them. From there, we'll activate our Lunar Blessing, and then we will just basically hit them with Shred, which will proc the crystals that you proc from turning them frozen. And then you'll have the like Lunar Blessing moonbeams raining down and just dealing a lot of damage. I think that's pretty much all the information we have now for this build. I will be updating it probably over the course of the next day or two. I'll probably kill Arbiter when I wake up. If you guys want to see that, maybe come stop by the Twitch stream as well as the YouTube. I always stream here daily. Let me know down in the comments if you have any comments, questions, or concerns about the build, or some things you think can make it better. Feel free to leave them down below. That always makes it a lot easier because I'm new to the build just like a lot of you are. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one very soon, Exiles.